So I was watching this thing on Netflix. It's been out for a while, but I like just binge watched it, went through the whole thing. It's called The People versus O.J. Simpson. You hear about this?
Who's it about?
It's about the people.
Okay.
And also O.J. Simpson.
Welcome back, everybody, to the FoundryCast. I'm Cyrus.
And I am Zach.
And it is episode 19.
Yeah.
We are racking these numbers up. I wonder at some point if we'll stop counting because it's in the 50s or 60s.
Oh, no, I gotta count just for editing purposes and nothing else.
Yeah.
You gotta order them correctly, you know?
I guess so. And it's a special day. It is May the 4th.
Yeah, May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th. See, everyone tries to do that. They say, May the 4th be with you. And those of us who grew up in certain Christian household, we want to say, and also with you.
Also with you.
But that's not correct. That's Lutheran. What we should say is, May the Force be with you always. Mm. I believe that's what Ben Kenobi says.
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
But it's a special Star Wars day for a lot of us nerds.
I think it's interesting this day has become kind of a ad hoc holiday just to celebrate Star Wars as a whole.
We need more opportunities to celebrate Star Wars.
Sure.
Talk about Star Wars. We need our friends to generate more memes, for goodness sake. I don't know if I saw enough of them
just
today.
There's not enough out there.
There's so many, and some of them are funny. You know, the one you showed me I hadn't seen before.
It was cute.
It was cute.
Yeah.
A little riff on stormtroopers not being able to take a holiday.
Yeah. Because it's a Jedi holiday. Yeah.
It's a Jedi holiday.
Sure.
But it's been a very interesting couple of weeks in both geek and tech news.
Yeah, we've got a few things we want to talk about today. And I tell you what, I'll go ahead and start with a trailer that has come out. Actually, there's a couple trailers, but the first one we want to talk about is the Dark Tower trailer.
Uh-huh.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
It looks pretty cool.
Need we start the podcast with this?
Here's the thing. I'll go first on my hot take on this.
Okay.
I'm not a Dark Tower fan.
Sure.
Never read the books.
Okay.
Never saw the original. I think it was a TV miniseries. I think it was the original. No. Was it? They did something.
The Stand.
The Stand. You're right. I'm thinking. See, this tells you about how little.
The Stand was re-released in another version.
This tells you how unfamiliar I am with this stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that I got to confuse the Stand. So yeah, I know very little about it. Watching from the trailer, it seems cool. I don't know. The action in the trailer is weird, where it's like he's like throwing bullets in the air and just swinging his gun into them, and it's like, well, I guess that's cool, but it feels almost like a 13-year-old thinks that's cool. It feels like It feels like The Matrix, but if The Matrix was to be released today, I don't know. It's strange. Anyway, it seems like it could be interesting. I don't know. What you go ahead.
I almost want to do a shot-by-shot analysis. I have read the books.
Don't know if we have that much time. But.
I have read almost all the comic book series, which was a line-for-line faithful interpretation of passages from the books.
Okay.
What the characters said in those comic books were line-for-line what happened. Some of the retellings in some of the later books, they put into the comics as if it happened in real time. What happened to Roland before the book series began. It's sort of like the prequels.
Okay.
The art in it is ethereal and dark and kind of gory and just amazing. And that is how I see that universe. Through the art, because I thought that matched what was already in my head. It is a dark, weird, twisted world with a bit of a wasteland, a bit medieval, a bit cowboy western. That's kind of where it belongs until the characters start hopping between worlds, which is part of the series. This movie, and from what I've gathered in limited amount of reviews and information so far, is that it's kind of a prequel, it's kind of a sequel, it kind of happens after the stories are over. I don't understand what it is, because what you see is not book 1.
I see.
It's a combination of book 2 and 3. Because the first book is really Roland's journey across the desert, chasing the man in black.
Okay.
So if I want to take another half step backwards, the casting of Idris Elba, at first I was really against it. And it's partly because the ethnicity of Roland kind of matters because the inclusion of Susanna, who's a black woman, against Roland, and then the relationship they have, it kind of breaches boundaries. And to have a black character as that... But the more of it I saw, and Idris Elba is such a great actor,
he's great.
I imagine they're just not going to tell that side of the story,
well,
and that's fine.
I was going to say that idea really isn't nearly as relevant today, whereas maybe when the books were written, that was more of a controversial thing.
Well, none of it is controversial. It has a bit more to do with Susanna. The second book, I believe, is called Drawing of the Three, and it's about Roland bringing Jake and...
Is that the little kid?
Yeah, the little kid who's in the previews.
Yeah.
And Susanna and Eddie Dean, or Eddie. He draws them, basically, needs to draw them into his world.
Okay.
Away from the terribleness of their lives or the whatever in their lives. The problem is Susanna, she's got kind of multiple personalities in her head, and bringing her in helps her kind of reincorporate to a degree.
Okay.
So I think that's important. But what they're telling is this weird world-hopping story where Roland is in our world.
Yeah.
Which he's supposed to do, but not until much later in the books.
And so they're kind of compressing everything down to a single movie.
They're kind of compressing it in case they can't. Matthew McConaughey as the Man in Black, again, I was against it. I think he will probably do a fantastic job. He's a very good character actor.
I was going to say, he really only plays himself, but he's actually really, when he's put in the right role, can be really good.
And this might be that for him. So my issues going into the movie, I don't have anymore. But in that preview, the gun combat looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
The magic that is used by the Man in Black, it's supposed to be more mystical. Okay. It's supposed to be less telekinesis. The stuff that he does,
where he's like doing straight up telekinesis.
Yeah, that's not what he does.
Okay.
He does things that trick your mind. There's a part where you see him and Roland basically catches up to him, and they're at a campfire. It's almost at the end of the book, and Roland essentially has a dream and then looks over, and he either, I don't remember if he does it in real time, but basically 100 years passes and he just ages and decays and disappears. So like it's more this dark, a little necromancer style of magic than it is hocus pocus.
Well,
and
so does Roland have magic powers?
No,
of some kind.
He is like a descendant of King Arthur in this universe.
Okay,
all the swords were melted into guns.
Sure,
and they train through gun combat. As if that is the Holy Grail, and it works. Like once it's about. You know, if you don't aim true, you're forgetting the face of your father. And that's why they almost got me back. The quotes in the previews.
Yeah, but the combat itself seems, like I said, it seems like a 13-year-old was like, wouldn't it be cool if you threw the bullets in the air and then like swung the gun down and just caught the bullets into the gun?
Well, the guns are magical, kind of.
Okay.
Like when he does the long shot and he breathes and caps the guy from 500 yards with a pistol. That is pretty true to the book.
I'm willing to accept that, but it's the physics of throwing the guns around and stuff
that
kind of gets me.
Throwing the bullets and catching them in the chamber, that's silly. With him, at one point he slides the chamber past his belt and it takes the bullets off. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That was a little trick. I don't remember that happening.
Reminds me of Tomb Raider a little bit, where the gun. Yeah. Anyway,
I read the beginnings of a review that said if you want to enjoy this movie, just totally reset your expectations.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's part of the problem is anything that's had, especially if there's like a comic adaptation, anything that's had a visual adaptation of it already, you know, you're butting up against that when you make it again.
But why wouldn't you use that adaptation for your storyboarding? You've got like this is pre-prepared, but I understand they're going a different direction. They're trying to catch this really young, modern audience.
Sure. Yeah, it's introducing it to... Yeah, we'll see.
To some people, it's just like Star Wars. This is when you see something in Star Wars that's so wrong, and you know it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
this is kind of it for me.
Sure.
I'm not the most loyal Stephen King fan, but I think this was a series that, from beginning to end, was kind of perfect. And it ended perfectly at the right time. It didn't go into book 10 and 12. It just ended in a very definitive and smart way.
Yeah.
However, this is kind of a spoiler.
Uh-huh.
Spoiler, huge spoiler, folks. The way the books end, they sort of open the story up to continue almost in a cycle. Mm-hmm. So that is part of what is being hinted at, is maybe this is the story being told again in the next cycle when some things change.
I see.
However, the things that change have nothing to do with what's done in the preview. So I'm excited to see. A bit of a ramble, but I have very strong feelings about this one.
Well, we'll see. I seriously doubt I'm going to see it in the theater because I'm not a fan, so I don't care.
If you're a fan of Stephen King, there is going to be, just by the nature of the Dark Tower, there's a ton of Easter eggs that will be there. The Dark Tower itself is an Easter egg in a ton of his movies. Anytime you see red roses, the name Randall Flagg or Colonel Flagg or even the word Flagg.
Name he uses it. I don't know. I'm actually not a huge Stephen King fan, weirdly enough. I don't know. There's a couple things that he's done that I like, but overall I'm not.
What's your favorite Stephen King property?
Maximum Overdrive.
That's a pretty good one. Kind of cheesy. It's pretty good.
Ultra cheesy and terrible. Mostly for the soundtrack.
I thought you were going to say Green Mile.
Oh, no, you know what? My favorite... actually, I take that back. My favorite Stephen King property is Shawshank Redemption. Probably my favorite film ever made. Yeah. Excellent.
Pretty perfect.
Anyway, so another trailer. I don't think you've seen this one yet, because it's just come out, but the Defenders trailer has come out.
Defenders trailer.
It looks really cool. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, it's going to be Netflix.
Should we pause this and get my hot take, like, immediately after seeing it?
Do you want to?
Let's check it out.
One trailer later.
Alright, that was pretty cool.
Yeah?
Gotta be honest. It looks like a better movie about Iron Fist series than his entire solo.
Than that series.
Yeah. I mean, we've spent a couple of years now getting to know some of these characters. Mm-hmm. What I love about those...
Yeah, gosh, Jessica Jones has been going for years?
Two. Well, I mean, how long it's been, but...
Well, since it started. I mean,
Daredevil and Jessica Jones both had 2 seasons.
Yeah,
Actually, Jessica's only had 1, I'm sorry.
Was it only 1 season? It's been around for a while, though.
It's been around for a little while.
Yeah.
We got to know those characters nice and slow, which is something that Joss Whedon does really well.
Right.
I don't know how much he's involved, if at all, in these, but the Defenders are heroes for hire. They're your low-budget, low-rent Avengers.
Right.
But they still do a lot of amazing things. I'm excited. That final little snippet in the preview where all 4 of them are fighting ninjas or whatever in a hallway. That's exactly what I want to see.
It's a cool scene. I really like when Luke Cage and Iron Fist are there, and he hits him, and then nothing happens. And he hits him with the fist, and it's
you see that cool slow mo of
first time you've seen
Luke Cage
really,
getting tanked.
It's pretty cool.
And then he's like, "Who are you?" "I'm the immortal Iron Fist." That's the first time I believe that Danny Rand, out of his entire series,
has actually
said that he's the Iron Fist.
Really?
I'm excited.
I haven't seen the Iron Fist series yet, and I've heard bad things, and we talked about it in a previous episode.
There's nothing that you need to see that I couldn't tell you about if you were going to watch the show.
Yeah, I'll probably pick up with the Avengers. I want to go back to the Defenders. I want to go back through and watch the rest of Luke Cage and Daredevil, because those are the 2 that I've seen some of. And
Daredevil is the best. I
like Luke Cage more, actually, so far.
Luke Cage has a wonderful thematic world.
It feels really good.
It feels good. My favorite character, and she's going to be the person who brings it all together, is Rosario Dawson's character, Claire Temple.
Yeah.
I believe that her character becomes a fighter as well, or whatever, with a name like Wildcat. I wish I could remember from the comic books. But she's the doctor. She really is the glue between every show.
Yeah,
she's been in all of them.
Right.
And she actually had a big role in Iron Fist, which I think was just meant to help cement them into the other world, because it didn't really
show a little bit, yeah.
But it had ninjas, it had the hand, and whenever I hear the hand, I always think it's a low-rent knockoff of the foot. from
The Foot
TMNT, but it's the exact opposite. That the Foot was a rip on Marvel's ninja clan called the Hand.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm ready for it. I the more Marvel can give me, the more I will absorb.
Yep. It looks like it's going to be good, and it looks like they're going to rebound from the like I said, the poor reviews they've been getting from Iron Fist, but we'll see once it comes out. Next up, I just wanted to bring up a news article that I saw, and forgive me, but this is an article from the New York Post.
Okay.
Which is honestly not the best news source ever, but the article seemed legit.
I'm open-minded. What they have to say.
It was very quick. It was covered talking about how toy retailers are not happy, as it were, this year because they feel like there are too many big blockbusters, especially oriented toward kids, coming out. And there are too many toys to go with all these new movies.
I can't think of too many summer blockbuster movies that are coming out. I mean, summer blockbuster movies. Maybe one or two. There are more that are going to happen this fall and this Christmas.
So they're talking about, all the superhero movies, the Star Wars films, Lego movie, Lego Batman came out, so that there's... It was interesting to me. It just made me think about when I was a kid, like movie tie-in. I think early 90s was kind of the era when movie tie-in toys really started to explode. Well, late 80s, early 90s. With like
the 80s,
Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles and some others that really took off.
Well, the 1980s were built upon, and we could go into this in greater detail another time, were built upon companies learning that they, instead of doing commercials geared at children, they instead make cartoons based on the toys, which serve as commercials themselves.
So we had Transformers and G.I. Joe.
So that was television.
Those are TV shows. Yeah, we're talking about.
And then the movies in the 90s, they started figuring it out, where they did commercial tie-ins with Pepsi and Pizza Hut and Nike and you name it.
I'm thinking of like the first movie I can remember that had a huge, really big push with a bunch of different people, a bunch of different random weirdo toys was Independence Day. I remember they pushed really hard with like a toy line and like some I remember getting like diskettes, like 3.5-inch diskettes that had these programs on them that like promoted the movie.
Oh, okay,
like stuff like
that.
Like
you get it like stuck to a cup.
Exactly. Yeah, you get it in like a magazine or something. I think mine came in. I think I got one at PC Gamer or something.
Yeah, Independence Day, Godzilla, those kind of movies have these weird commercial tie-ins. So I'm assuming that the issue is there's an oversaturation of blockbusters?
Yeah, I think basically it's like almost fatigue in the market where there's too many different options and so they're thinking sales are down because there's people are buying too much stuff. I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily agree with their conclusions in the article. I just thought it was an interesting point to bring up. Do you think
when's the last time we saw an Avengers movie? Sometime early last year?
Was it early 2016?
Because Civil War came out 2016.
Technically, it wasn't an Avengers movie, but Civil War was last year.
Okay, we'll say that that's the Marvel cast.
Sure.
Because it was mostly Avengers-y. Yeah. And then...
Except for Thor and Hulk. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. But, I mean, most of the Avengers. Yeah. But if you go to Walmart and Target, there's still half an aisle of Iron Man figures and Captain America shields and things. Yeah. There's still a lot of properties that are going to continue to have shelf space because they are always going to be popular. Yeah. Then you bring in a new Avatar movie, and it's going to be popular for 10 minutes. So you better get all the merchandise up you can, sell as much as you can, because 4 months after the movie release, nobody's buying Avatar figures anymore.
Let me tell you, those kids are lining up for the Avatar figures.
Some of those were really pretty cool. I didn't buy any, although I think I got a few from a Happy Meal once that would light up like it was actually sound activated.
McDonald's stepping up their game.
Sometimes they do. Although I don't know if it was McDonald's. I don't know where it came from. Anywho, I can imagine that being a problem. I'm not so worried about the rich getting richer.
Yeah.
But I think that there are trends in the market that happen anyways, and you have to be really smart with what toys you put out there.
Yeah, my other thought was also, when you're talking about trends in marketing and stuff, I think it's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it, but I thought it's interesting that still movie toys are such a big industry. given like young kids these days are more about what's on their tablet, what's on their phone, what's
the
on their
electronic
lap.
market is different.
It feels like physical toys aren't what they were when we were kids. Maybe, I guess they still are, but I was just I hadn't really thought about that.
There's a gap in quality. You know, some of the smaller figurines, the collectible figurines, some of them are incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
Then again, at the same time, you can still get McFarlane.
I was thinking more about
quality
that.
and-
Like, the more movie figurine tie-ins I see are the ones geared towards us.
Adults.
Collectors who want really nice versions.
But we'll spend more money, but we're more discerning. So, whereas one child at a birthday might get $200-$300 in presents from different fields, I will go spend $50 on myself, and that's all for the year. Yeah. So there is a market for it, but it's a different kind of niche. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't feel bad for those companies.
Definitely not.
Because they're making plastic garbage half of the time that's not collectible. I think back to my childhood, as we probably talked about before, the Voltron figures that were die-cast metal, almost indestructible, huge. Yeah, the original Transformers, some of them were metal.
Yeah.
Or at least the pieces felt good and sturdy, and you wanted to play with them and transform them. Yeah. Now, you get the Transformer plastic, they're already transformed. They're not even a car anymore. It's just a piece of plastic that arms move.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's crocodile tears on my part. I don't really care. In my opinion, Hollywood just needs to make better movies, and then it'll solve some problems. But
yeah, and I don't need my battle figures for Jacob and Edward. I don't need...
some Twilight figurines?
Yeah, some Twilight figurines, like BattleBots, where they punch each other.
I think I saw some of those at DragonCon last year. Going back really quickly and touching on another Netflix topic, we talked about Defenders a minute ago. Did you hear that Netflix got held for ransom by hackers? Some hackers managed to get a hold of the new season of Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, I saw those headlines.
And said that they were going to release them online if Netflix didn't pay them a large sum of money, which of course they didn't. So the hackers released them. They're out on there on the the illegal web, torrents or whatever.
The dark web.
Oh, I'm not going to say the dark web.
How far in advance? Did you see in the article when the new season would come out? It's probably pretty soon. It's pretty soon.
Yeah, it's not that far in advance. I don't know. We talked about this ever so briefly before we started. I think it's pretty funny, the idea that the hackers think that they can hold Netflix for ransom here.
And the fact that they're holding this for ransom and they're wanting money, I think the article said, that's illegal. And so the company is in no need. It's not like, hey, we want to make a bargaining agreement. Yeah. We have the rights to disseminating the name Orange is the New Black, so you have to change your entire company. Yeah. You got to change your show name.
Yeah.
They're just trying to gouge them for money.
I'm trying to extort some money from them.
Which, okay, yeah, we're gonna play ball with you in your illegal scheme. No. Second, this is free advertising.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh! Thank you for getting me national headlines.
Yeah, like all they care about is, hey, we get. It's the same thing with that film, the Seth Rogen movie that came out a couple years ago, where supposedly North Korea threatened Sony if they released it. It was this huge and the movie still failed, but it was huge marketing wise for that film.
They made more money because they're marketing.
Yeah, nobody cared about that movie until that happened. It seems like it's the same thing here, where nobody, I take it back. A lot of people were excited. Orange is the New Black is a great show, and people were excited for the new season. But this seems like it's drumming up more hype for the season than it is harming Netflix.
It probably harms them to a degree, but I look at it this way: the viewer type who's going to watch it is different. Mm-hmm. The person who's on the dark web, who's going to stream it early,
they were going to do that anyway.
They were going to do it anyway.
They don't have a Netflix account.
As soon as it popped up on Netflix, someone was going to torrent it, and they were still going to do that.
They're going to steal it regardless.
Now, if you own Netflix, or if you have a subscription to Netflix and you don't watch it, they make the same amount of money. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what you watch on Netflix as long as you're paying for it. Yeah. And the soccer moms And the general casual audience, who are not the same, I'm not saying all Orange is the New Black watchers are soccer moms, but all soccer moms are Orange is the New Black watchers. They aren't going to go to the dark web to watch it, so it doesn't matter. Right. I think Netflix is probably getting more than they're losing in this circumstance.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling.
But it's going to open up new laws, I'm sure.
Yeah, it might bring some
the process of this.
I don't know. I just thought it was kind of an interesting little twist.
It's interesting, and I think we haven't seen the last of it. Not about Orange is the New Black, not necessarily Netflix, but about properties and how they're controlled and how they're encoded so that they don't get leaked somewhere else.
Yeah, that's one of the things that the article I was reading was talking about, how Netflix is so good about their security, and this kind of reflects negatively on them. But overall, yeah, it's interesting, but I don't think anything much is going to change out of it.
Earlier this week, we got to enjoy 2017 International Tabletop Day.
Yes.
I believe this is the third annual Tabletop Day, International Tabletop Day.
I believe so, yeah.
It was founded originally, I believe, by Geek and Sundry, who have their own website and very big Twitch channel now.
Yeah.
Thanks to Critical Role as well as some other shows.
Yeah, sure.
And it has grown bigger and bigger every year. The first year was mostly an LA thing. 2016, it got bigger.
They're
People
based
started
out there, right?
Because they're based out of California.
Yeah.
But it just continues to grow.
Yeah.
And I was wanting to celebrate it anyways.
Sure.
But we also had recently been going to Well Played, which is a board game cafe in downtown Asheville, North Carolina.
Yep.
And I gotta say, that was a huge blast.
It was cool. Yeah, they had just opened about a month previous, and I think that they made this their official ribbon cutting ceremony, but it was kind of
this was their first event.
Yeah, it was their first big event. It was perfect timing for them, and it worked out well for us. Like you said, we got a venue where we got to go celebrate the day. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We were there for 4 or 5 hours, I think.
I was wanting to be there all day, to tell you the truth. I was trying to scheme and plan with everybody because while there are games that are suitable for 1 and 2 players, the games for 1 player, they're kind of sad. And you can only play so many rounds of solitaire before you just start to cry. So I couldn't go quite as early as I wanted. My wife and I got out a few minutes ahead of everybody. You showed up. A few of our other friends showed up.
I had to work that day, but I was able to get off a little early, but it was still mid-afternoon before I was able to hit the road and head that way.
I was a little surprised. Well Played is still a new business, but they've become pretty popular pretty quickly because I think the Asheville scene, or like any medium city, it fits really well with the culture. With the people are a lot more on the friendly side.
Yeah.
Like, walk into a shop, see what's going on.
Yeah.
So this is a very open, casual, social environment.
Yeah.
They do have some beers on tap and some cans of beer. Really good local stuff.
Yeah, but I like what they do where, Asheville is Beer City, USA, or it was for won that award a bunch of times. Yeah. But, a lot of places in town where they're like, oh, we're going to be a board game bar, they would focus more on the bar aspect. And that's one thing I really actually like about Well Played is, they have a couple beers on tap. They have, I think, 5 or 6. And they have a fairly nice can selection of beer, which you kind of have to in Asheville. But their focus really is on the games, the board games themselves.
Yeah, they have a very extensive training regimen, it seems.
Yeah.
Because you don't start at the top. You start as a server,
you have to
learn almost every game on the shelf. And they're over 450 games, I think
they have a bunch. It's impressive the orientation that they have. The attention to detail. That's a good way of putting it. I'm just thinking about, we've had some other places here in town that have come and gone who put their focus on the bar aspect. And it was like, oh, we're just a themed bar, and after the initial I was going to say nostalgia, but after the initial effect wore off, people kind of left them by the wayside, and they failed and closed. They're going about it the right way, where it's like, no, we're bringing people in because they want to play games.
And they want to come back.
And they want to come back, and this is something for this hobby in this area which doesn't really exist. So I think they've done a really nice job. They understand their market better than a lot of other people who try and do this.
And I think they've already found, to operate certain businesses, the space you have, the rent you pay, is all so important because you can have the greatest idea, but if you're paying out the wazoo for a building at a prime location, and you've got all this extra square footage, you're not making that money back. And so what I think is it's a really cool location on Wall Street.
It is.
If you look out the windows, you can see right down one of the major thoroughfares through Asheville. And then the entrance is on it's almost like a cobblestone road. It's like a pebbly road. And I believe Cortland, one of the owners, said in an article that he thought it was perfect that at the end of Wall Street there's a giant iron like
the piece from Monopoly.
Like a Monopoly board piece. He said it couldn't be more perfect, and I agree. And to go in there, we had about an hour and a half wait. Or more, almost.
It was almost 2 hours we had to wait to get a table. You guys had showed up between 4 and 5, I think, and put your name in, and it was almost 6 o'clock before we got in there and got a table. Of course, we were asking for a large space.
We were asking for an 8-person table, and
it's not the biggest place in the world. That's one thing I'll say. I hope that they get a chance to expand a little bit.
I don't know if they can. And then again, that's what I was saying. Like, it's not quite small.
Yeah.
It's a good size for what they do.
Yeah.
I imagine that there are other businesses that would try to expand and then fail because...
Yes, they can go too far with that, for
exactly.
sure.
Yeah, there's a little hot dog franchise in Hendersonville who they only need that small place. There's a line out the door, but they can operate like that and turn over and make money. If they expanded, they would probably start to lose money.
Right, they'd be paying for too much space. So.
Yeah, but I think you hit the nail on the head. The quality of the staff there.
Yeah.
And their focus and their love of board games is really what sells this place.
So we got the chance to sit down and talk for a while with the event coordinator, Corey there, and that was one of the things that kind of I pulled from that conversation with him was a lot of the folks that are part of their initial hire, a lot of the folks that work there are coming from the same community where they all knew each other to a certain extent, and they were all really into games to begin with. Which I think is great that you have that kind of body of experts, quote unquote, to pull from.
Or even if they didn't know each other, that they had such a love. They didn't come into work to be a bartender.
Right.
They came in because they love board games.
Yeah. He said even the busboy there is like a really good chess player.
Yeah.
So if they need somebody to come play chess, they could just call on him. So yeah, that's a really neat setup that you're not going to find at most other places.
Have you ever gone to a restaurant?
Bars, I should say.
You go to a restaurant or a bar and you ask the bartender, like, what's your best beer on tap? And they go, well, I don't know. This IPA.
They look down at a card that's in front of them and say, oh, I really like the such and such IPA.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, you just put that on tap. That's your beer of the week, you know.
We did some side interviews with a couple of the other staff members. Yeah. One was their game master extraordinaire.
Yeah, one of the game masters. Yeah.
And this other woman, I don't know if she was a game master yet.
She was just a server. Yeah.
But we asked them their favorite games, and they were so incredibly articulate and passionate.
They knew what the game was. They'd obviously played it. They obviously liked it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't repeating. You know, you get that at a restaurant even where you sit down and you ask your server, "Hey, what's good here?" And they're like, "Oh, well,
burgers are good.
The hanger steak has a delicious nutty." You know, they're just reading off the menu. You know. The staff there, even like you said, even the server, even the busboy, they have games that they know and love that they have personal opinions on. That's really nice.
I enjoyed it so much so that the next time I came in, I got a monthly pass.
Yeah, I picked one up as well last time I was there. So
I'm number 10.
I'm number 12.
I know you were hoping for 13.
I wanted 13 because that's my lucky number.
Do you know what I really would have preferred? 007.
That would have been pretty cool.
And I would pay the money to always have that number because it's so dang cool.
That's what I'm wondering. Do we get the same number when we re-up?
I think you. I'm sure because you don't change your customer number, I guess.
But
I mean, I like that we got to experience this place brand new.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that they're going to have to work really hard to keep the quality of their games up. And that's what they're unafraid to explain. That's why they have a fee.
The fee there
to play.
Yeah,
it's $5 a person
for a full day
for the whole day
to play whatever you want.
I don't know. They didn't say explicitly if you leave and you can come back, but I don't imagine that would be too big of a problem.
Yeah, I think that's implied that you can play. You can leave and come back. There are a handful of games you can play for free. It's like chess, basically.
Chess and dominoes.
But to play the actual good, $100 board games that you're not going to be able to play at home, you pay that $5 fee. Or in our case, you pay for the month. Yeah. But
we talked about this. I don't know if it made it to the video or just on our car ride back.
Yeah.
The way that you get to play a board game is to throw down the money for a brand new copy.
Yeah.
Some of those games were $70, $100
Sure. Yeah.
a piece.
Board games are not cheap.
Or you go to a friend's house where they already own it.
Right.
But the likelihood of you getting to play a ton of these games from a friend's house, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, you're not going to get a chance to play all of these.
And there's something different than watching a tutorial and sitting down with the cards or the pieces in your hands and really playing it. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing for me. Because I have fallen in love with a couple games.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking Onitama.
Onitama is up there. I've really already looked at 3 different places I could buy it online. I'm just waiting on the next, paycheck to come in.
Yeah.
There's a couple more that I would like. The last one we played where we were like sultans.
Jaipur.
Jaipur?
It was called Jaipur. I think it was called Jaipur.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That's a recommend. That might be one I get.
That was a good one. That was one that was really fun with just 2 players because you played that one 2 player. That was enjoyable by itself. I think it would be good with more than 2, but with you can. There's a lot of games out there that with 2 players aren't quite as good, but that's one that I think held up.
And then we played Dixit with a large group of people.
Fun.
That was so much fun. I like that game
a lot. That's a really actually we had this extended conversation with Corey there, the coordinator, about Cards Against Humanity, and we've talked about this extensively on previous episodes.
I could flip back to see what episode that was,
but we talked to them. He was saying that some of the other staff felt the same way, where like they have Cards Against Humanity there. But they try not to encourage people to play it because it is kind of a negative, it brings out the worst in you kind of game.
And it kind of changes the rating of the business while they want it to be very family friendly, and it is.
Yeah.
It's a very open, honest. You don't usually hear people throwing out curse words, but Cards Against Humanity is pretty terrible.
But that's the great thing about Dixit is it's a similar style game. Mm-hmm. It's along the same lines, but it is purely creative and positive. And a good, if you're throwing out curse words when we play Dixit, you're really you just got doo doo in your brain.
I think so.
You're just
and Dixit is kind of like some other games where with what you're dealt changes the gameplay, but in this instance, the people you play with changes your gameplay.
Yeah.
So you add a different player. Just one person can totally change the balance.
Think about different things depending on who your opponents are. Yeah, absolutely. Another game that we didn't get a chance to play yet, but that's on my top of my list next time we go is Fun Employed.
Fun Employed.
Similar. I've seen some videos online about it. I've always wanted to play it, and the fact they have it is great. Similar kind of idea where you're playing different cards, apples to apples style, but it's a positive experience rather than I would say negative like Cards Against Humanity.
I want to play the Oregon Trail card game.
Yes.
I think that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, my brother has that game, and I've been desperate to play it. So next time I go see them, I'm going to ask to play it for sure. But yeah, I'd like to play it well played as well.
We also played a very silly game that turned out to be a lot more intriguing than we first thought, and that was Ninja Camp.
Ninja Camp was great.
Ninja Camp was fun.
That. That's a game we need more players.
That's a game we need more
players. With 2 players, it was okay, but it really would shine with 3 or 4.
The basic concept is we lay out a field of cards, like a 6x8 field of cards, and each one has a move that you can do. Yeah. You have a couple moves in your hand. You've got your little meeples on the board, and you can only move based on the cards that you have.
You play one of your hand cards to move one of the guys, but once they moved, you get the card they were on.
So you start taking away pieces of the board as if they're falling apart. So
and
now
you get
your
the abilities of those pieces that you pull, and then the more you collect, the more points you get. It's really cool.
You collect points, but you also restrict movements of other people, and you almost want to screw them over, but you do that and you realize now you're stuck on island 2 and you can't get off. Yeah. And if you run out of moves, you're out of the game. You could still win. if you had enough points.
If you collect enough points along the way.
Playing 2-player was pretty good.
Yeah,
I think playing 4 players
is going to be a lot more fun.
It's going to be nasty, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's got a great sort of. It's called Ninja Camp. So
it kind of has a Kung Fu Panda.
Kung Fu Panda, Chinese Zodiac,
like different animals doing the Kung Fu. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, and this is another thing I mentioned. We did a short video about our visit there. I mentioned it there, and I did a blog post about it as well. Machi Koro is a game that I've been eyeing to buy forever, and I got a chance to play there.
That was fun.
And then I turned around and bought it the next day.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about this is, you were talking about how you can't turn around and play all these games at your friend's house. They're, hundreds of dollars for just a couple of these games. So to have the opportunity to go in and try 5 or 6 different games that I've been eyeing, and then I can turn around and buy my favorite, that's worth its weight in gold just by itself. That's worth the admittance fee.
Yeah, there are a couple other board games that I want to play next time we visit. And they also say it's okay if you want to bring in your own board games to play from home. But I find, why don't you just do that anyways? I want to play something I've never played before.
Yeah, exactly. I want to try their library out.
They got a huge library. And there are a lot of games that are... they have a colored system. Mm-hmm. So if it's green, that means easy. Yellow means intermediate. Red means you probably need to have played this before.
It's going to take a while.
And the game masters can't spend all day to explain it to you.
Right, that's one great thing we didn't mention when we were talking about how great their staff is. The game masters especially, they're there to teach you those games.
Oh, sure.
So if you grab a game and you don't know how to play it, they will literally sit down with your table with you, walk you through step by step, teach you how to play it right then and there. Mm-hmm. At least they will for most of the games. Like you said, the red ones they generally don't do because they said it takes too long.
Well, yeah, the setup is too long. The combat is too difficult. Yeah. And we had a ton of people, I think it was 3 people come by and just comment on the game we were already playing. Oh, that one's really great. Oh, good choice. Yeah. One of them we had just started playing before we got to sit down and interview Corey. And everybody said, the directions are terrible. Don't read the directions. Just read this here.
And they were absolutely right.
They were right.
Yeah, Boss
Monsters.
Boss Monsters. Yeah, which is a game I've seen for sale forever. And I was like, I kind of want to try that. I like the 8-bit style. We grabbed it. And as I grabbed it, the guy was like, make sure that you just read the quick start card. The instructions are terrible. We sat down. I pulled them out. I looked at them. Oh, yeah, they were right. The instructions were awful.
And I like the idea that I can go back and I'm starting to get on a first name basis, at least for me with them. I don't expect that they remember me, but to see Corey, to see Tanner, Aaron as well.
Was our server the other night.
Getting to see them and go, hey, good to see you. Thanks again for that suggestion. I'm buying that game. And to be clear, this is something that Corey did tell us. They're not in the business to sell the games.
Right.
They're there to play the games, to have fun, to come back. It's more the experience. They are in talks with other businesses. They will suggest places in town you can go if you want to buy the game that you played. Mm-hmm. They don't ever really want to sell those games, and I appreciate that. I think it muddies the water. It also sends away your business to a degree.
Yeah, they want you to keep coming back and play.
They want you to come back and play it again, but they also want you to play something new and something different. And I can imagine that after a while you would run out of games to play, but with 450 options.
Well, and hey, talking to them the other day, they're adding new stuff all the time. They're adding difference that they're rotating things out.
I think 3 new games that day.
Yeah.
They were I didn't recognize any of the names. They were brand new releases that had come out in the last week or two.
Yeah.
And I even tried to alert them to a few really, really cool games that came out of a Kickstarter that are going into retail. Hey, maybe keep an eye out on this one because it looks like a lot of fun. And it seems like a lot of the more communal games that they have that are a little bit in the role play, a little bit in the theater side of things are some of the most fun you can have.
Yep. Yeah, that's one thing that they were doing on International Tabletop Day is they were doing events all throughout the day, playing different games, having tournaments, and talking with them. That's something they want to do a lot going forward is having special days where they're going to be playing games like Fiasco or something like that, where they're going to have big groups together, maybe even bring in improv groups to play those sorts of games. I like that aspect of a board game cafe where not only are you bringing people in to play games, you're bringing in people to watch other people play some of these games, which is really cool to me.
Yeah, some of those games that are a little more about being in character.
Yeah.
Some of that is more fun to just watch everybody else come up with stuff and get out of things. And that's why I always enjoy playing Munchkin, because sometimes you kind of play it in character, not always. Yeah. If you're a thief, might be a little more thiefy. Fiasco's a huge one about character development. And they were even playing Dungeons and Dragons.
They were, yeah.
At one of the tables. It was advanced D&D too.
Yeah,
old school.
Love it.
It was so inspiring. I was like, I don't remember all my advanced D&D rules, but if I could sit there and ask what I can do, I would play in a heartbeat.
So yeah, lots more events coming forward. Overall, I think we had a lot of fun. It was a really, really, really nice way to celebrate the quote-unquote holiday. Yeah. To celebrate board game.
It's like we said in Star Wars. We can make up our own holidays.
Sure.
We can make it Taco Tuesday if we want to.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to be there. And while we're on the subject of board games, I thought we'd go off on a bit of a tangent, because this was something we asked the staff there while we were there, just kind of getting different opinions. Cause it's an interesting question that you've asked before. Games like, for example, Yahtzee, or I like to use Perfection, if you recall that one. Operation
was Perfection with the little pieces you had to put
in.
You
have to put them in before they all pop out. Yeah, games like that, are those board games?
Now, I think that the game master Tanner said it very poetically.
Yeah.
That has to do with like the intent, the idea of getting people together to play a game. It's very communal, and he considers that a board game.
Yeah.
Erin was still sort of landed on that, but she also saw the pragmatic side of this is. The words matter, and so is it really a board game?
She started out saying, like, if there's a board there, then it's a board game. But then she went back and realized that, no, I think I agree with them that intent matters. And
well, I think you're going to lump it into an idea. This is a board. Hey, come over and play board games. But if you pull out Uno... Yeah. That's not a board game.
There's no board involved.
It's a card game.
There's no pieces even. It's just cards.
I think you get into technicalities, and I'm okay living in that
I think that's why we call it International Tabletop Day instead of Board Game Day, because...
It could be a role-playing game, which may or may not have...
Is Dungeons & Dragons a board game?
If it has an environment...
There doesn't have to be a board, though. You can just sit around with a book and talk, so...
Exactly.
I think board games, I think it's fair to say... include all of those things for the most part.
What I was trying to consider the difference between a board game, a card game, and then a toy.
Yeah.
And I consider Operation to be a game that is a toy.
Sure.
However, I see if it has a board or environment, it could be a flat board, it could be, a bunch of pieces connected together. So Operation might qualify as a board game to that regard, but because you're not strategically moving pieces, you're doing an activity.
Yeah.
So if you had that Break the Ice, where it's the piece of plastic and you tap out a piece, I don't think that's a board game.
Jenga?
Jenga would not be a board game. There is no board. You're not moving pieces strategically around. So that's if someone calls it a board game, I'm not going to argue with them.
Yeah.
If someone says we're playing board games and you bring out Jenga, Dominoes, and Uno, I'm not going to say a word.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, a board game, I want board games. I love those. I love a couple of these old X-Men games from the 1990s with little metal pewter figures that you have to paint yourself.
Sure.
And they move around the board with all these cards. That's what I think of. I think of Monopoly. I think of Life.
Here's a question. My board game that I've partially designed, still working on, there's no board, but there are tile pieces that you lay out.
That'd be a tile game.
Is that a board game?
It's Mahjong. It's a tile game.
It's a tile game now.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be another subgenre.
But if there was a board that they sat on, then it would be a board game?
Yeah, you could. If someone told me it was a board game, I could agree with that. I wouldn't. If I was building a database, I would put it under tile games.
Yeah, okay.
Because there aren't any cards to draw. I don't remember there being any cards.
There are cards.
There are. Oh, that's okay.
There are cards, there are pieces, and there are tiles.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I think in semantics at that point. I mean,
it is.
You run into things like like perfection I can understand as saying it's more of a toy. But there's still pieces. And...
What's the one with the marbles and the sticks you got to pull out?
Well,
There are a couple variations of that.
Yeah,
one.
I know which one
I
you're
wouldn't
talking
consider
about.
that a board game. That's a toy.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's a game aspect to it.
It's a game.
Whereas something like Lego or K'NEX doesn't have. Those are building toys. Those are toys.
They're not games.
But there's no game built into it. So
Unless you play the new Lego board games.
Okay, fair enough.
Like Minotaur and Harry Potter.
My viewpoint would be if there is a game involved, then we can call it a board game if we so choose. I think that's a generic enough term, even if there's no board. If it's a toy that has a game, a competitive game of some kind involved with it, then
I wouldn't consider a helicopter an airplane.
Okay.
So I don't know if I would consider Jenga a board game.
Sure,
They're both games.
But
yes.
A helicopter requires a license the same as an airplane, and they're the same license, they just have different classifications.
Right, and that's a game. The licensure is that it is a game.
That's the game level?
But because the helicopter doesn't have wings...
It does have wings, they just spin.
Nope, that's a propeller. Nope, because you're saying airplanes have two sets of wings, but no.
They kind of do from an aerodynamic standpoint, they do, actually.
And then therefore...
And they're not propellers, they're rotors.
The rotor. And then that's the difference between a board.
My level of organization, if we're using the same analogy, you're saying that a game in this analogy is a flying device, and that a board game would be an airplane, versus a card game is a helicopter.
That's right. And they're all
My
flying.
perspective would be game would be a vehicle of some type, and board games would be a flying vehicle, whereas a toy game or something would be a car.
I would see, vehicles as just being toys, cars.
Okay, sure.
Because a board game is a toy, to a degree.
I feel like we can. I feel like it's in the spirit of the word board game to pretty much lump all these together.
I think there are games that are great, and there are things that are board games that have a different strategy. There's Dominoes has a certain kind of strategy. Jenga has a certain kind of strategy.
Sure.
Board games, there are more elements of randomness because there's often the drawing of random cards and the rolling of dice. What position you land on affects you, like a lot of card games do too. But I think the board itself matters, and that's one of the things that draws me more. I don't normally like card battle games.
I can understand that, like the idea of pulling out a board and unfolding it, setting it in the middle of the table. That has a really nice allure to it that something like Uno doesn't have.
Exactly, and it's like you're opening a bottle of wine and it has an actual cork.
Sure.
Not
versus
a rubber
a
cork,
screw cap.
Versus a screw cap. Like, to me, that does matter a bit, and I understand that a screw cap wine can be just as good and fragrant and tasty as a French Bordeaux, but I prefer it this way. I think it's kind of interesting. I did a bit of research, and the numbers change, of course. So this is going from about a couple weeks ago. I tried to look at the top bestsellers so far in 2017 on Amazon sales for board games. And it's surprising to see what is there, what isn't there. What would you... go ahead and throw out what you think was probably in the top 10.
Best-selling board game?
Or just a couple of them that you would think would be in there.
I gotta figure probably Uno is in there.
Not in there.
Wow. Gosh, it's hard to say with Amazon because I don't know if it's a lot of like general audience or if it's a lot of board game kind of people. Just going by number of copies that well played, let's say Ticket to Ride.
Ticket to Ride is like number 5.
Okay. Pandemic's probably on there.
Pandemic is in there. Number 7.
What else? Risk, I'm guessing, might
not
be
in there, but it's in the top 20.
Okay.
And Uno's in the top 22.
Okay.
There's so many versions of Uno, it waters itself down.
Yeah.
Number 10, Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Okay, yeah.
Number 9, Catan 5 to 6 player edition.
Catan, yeah.
Number 8, Sorry, the 2013 edition.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pandemic is 7. 6 is Let's Go Fishing.
Oh, I don't even know that one.
Yeah. 5, Ticket to Ride.
Sure.
4, What Do You Mean?
I don't know.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, it sounds. No, go ahead.
Number 3, Connect 4.
Interesting.
Yeah, Connect 4 has a huge groundswell right now.
Oh, good for them. Good
2,
for Milton Bradley.
Yeah. 2, Codenames.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I have a copy of Codenames. Really, really good. By the way, we need to play that.
That's one I really want to play as well.
Yeah.
Number 1, Catan.
Okay. Just the plain old.
Yeah. The
Settlers of Catan.
But what is interesting is that a lot of these games from the past, these dusty oldies but goodies, are still huge.
Well, so that was another kind of topic along this line I wanted to talk about was how... So let's say we're sitting down, we want to be board game nerds. We want to really get into that world and be part of that. We want to go to Well Played a couple times a week. We want to really be part of the board game culture because it is thankfully resurging right now. There's huge
I'm so
board
glad
game.
for that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Unexpected, but great.
Well, I think you say unexpected, but...
Well, given, like, modern technology and what kids like.
But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of people wanting to spend time at home, turning off their electronics.
Yeah, it's kind of a response to that ubiquitousness of
Right.
Of
I wouldn't say it's the counterculture to the electronic gaming, but it is sort of a natural byproduct of the families who are and the friends who are getting back together in let's say analog format, just people and cards and boards and dice in a room.
So to that end, with this resurgence, do you feel like if you want to be a board game nerd and you want to have a great collection of games, is there a place in there for games like Monopoly or Life or Sorry, Trivial Pursuit we played the other night? These types of like old school games that, Monopoly especially, I know board game nerds seem to hate. They just don't like that game. I love Monopoly. I think it's wonderful. It's got its flaws, but I think it's a lot of fun. Do you think there's a place in your collection as a board game nerd for those more simple, more accessible types of games?
Oh, sure. I'm often say again, but again, here we are with your perspective and your need at the time. I look back at one of my favorite games was Battleship, and I had these 2 plastic pieces that would click together, and you'd separate the red one from the blue one, flip them over, open it up, and then that's your entire board. So it's like a travel version of Battleship. And Battleship is a game that you can play over and over and over again, and it's always a little different. And you can try out different strategies of clumping them together or having them all face a certain direction.
And your search patterns.
And just getting lucky.
Yeah.
It is such a cool game that I think that there are some newer games that they tend to get a little overcomplicated. And that's why I liked Onitama, because there's a little bit of sophistication in your move sets. Yeah. Sort of like chess, where each piece has a move, but instead of, in this case, each piece having a move, you could only have a move based on the cards you had drawn at that time, and they would change over time, but you would keep the same 5 cards for both players throughout the whole game. Yeah. Same thing is true with Battleship. Same thing is true with Sorry. I wouldn't say that they're basic, but they're tried and true.
The rules are simple. Yeah.
There are so many board games that came out years and years ago that failed. But some of these persist. And they persist for a reason. Monopoly is one of those games that I don't prefer. I have no interest in playing it. But anyone who does like it, cool for them. I've just never had fun with it. And until I do, I'm not drawing it off the shelf.
You play with the wrong group then.
Playing with the wrong group, maybe so. But I imagine if I have kids one day and we're sitting down, I want them to play some of these newer board games, but at the same time, I'm going to try to instill in them the idea of gameplay. And some of these were the ones that open the door for the way you do battling or the way you do certain types of strategy or economy. I would be interested to see, and also the Sorry 2013 edition. Sorry needs to be updated.
Yeah,
No.
what's different about it? Anyway,
Monopoly gets updated every couple years. They retire
squares
pieces and they change the roads.
That's true.
Star Wars edition. I'm sure there's an
every
Indiana
edition
Jones
ever.
edition, for goodness sake.
but yeah, no, that's one aspect of it. I would say is these more quote unquote simple games, these older school games, are gateway games. They're what
Uno is a gateway drug.
it is kind of. But when you say like, hey friends, come over to my place tonight. We're gonna have a board game night. For normal folks, that's we're gonna play Uno and we're gonna play Monopoly, and so you can bring them in. And you can say, well, we're gonna start with a couple games of Uno, and then I'm gonna show you another card game called Fun Employed. I think you're really gonna like. So you can use these as sort of an intro, a way to get people hooked in to the, like you said, the idea, the basic concepts of playing a game at the tabletop. That you can then say, okay, we're gonna go a little bit further. I look at something like Risk. Risk is really simple. It really is. The rule set is simple. The strategy is also, I think, one of my problems with Risk. The strategy really isn't there because it is so simple. It's just slam your dudes into the other dudes and see who has more dudes. But Risk, you can turn around and turn into Axis and Allies, which adds another layer of strategy. And then you can turn that around into some really high-end, complicated combat games and start getting really, really in-depth. So I think to that end, like, you can use these as ways to build up and introduce more people into the hobby. And then, before you know it, you're playing Eldritch Horror with everybody. Or, Pandemic. Pandemic is, aside from its setup, which is fairly complicated, the rules in Pandemic are pretty straightforward. That's a game that you couldn't get a lot of people into.
I think everyone should have at least one classic game in their collection. They don't need to go out and buy the whole Parker Brothers.
The collection.
The whole collection.
No.
But go find a new version of Monopoly, or go find the updated version of Life where you have credit cards and cell phones and things.
Yeah.
I think it's great to have at least one of those in your collection. And when you get tired of those games that have the same cards that come up from time to time, you can always play Uno over and over again. It's always going to be fresh and always going to be fun.
Yeah.
Time for this episode's table topics.
Yeah, table topic.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about an issue that we've both suffered. I'm currently suffering. A good friend of ours is currently suffering, and that is the hiatus blues.
Yeah.
We're stuck in between game sessions, a long hiatus. It's tough to deal with, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it happens. It happens for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes, as a GM, you reach a roadblock in a story, and you got to take some time off. More often than not, for us especially, but I think for most groups, it's, my job hours changed. I started classes back. Something's changed to the point
Holiday season
comes.
Yeah.
Too many commitments. The group breaks up for a week, 2 weeks. Suddenly that becomes 2 months, and all of a sudden it's been 6 months since you've played. It happens to almost every group out there, I think, at some point or another.
And there's a difference between the game ends, or we're taking a break, and it becomes a hiatus, or it is something that's planned. We're not able to continue. We're not able to commit at this time. It's now up in the air. The desire to play is still there. Yeah. There is still story. There is still character to be developed.
That's the distinction we should make. Is it's not a group reaching a point where I think our characters have done what they want to do. The DM told the story that he wants to tell. He or she wants to tell, and
I don't feel like playing anymore. I'm out. That's a different issue.
Yeah, like I said, it could be burnout, but it's not. Yeah, I guess that's a topic for another day. We're talking about, like I said, life gets in the way, and you have to break for a little while, and then, like I said, usually these things snowball where it's like, you know what, we need to take a couple of weeks off, and all of a sudden it's 6 months later.
Well, while we were prepping a little bit ago, trying to come up with the perfect way to talk about this, you proposed a question. Like, should you come back from a hiatus? Right. Should you even bother? Yeah. And I want to know what your thoughts are there. Because it seemed as if you're kind of doubtful about coming back.
That is something that I've run into with my game, where I had a game that was successful and everybody loved, and we're having a good time. We had to take a break. for real life reasons, and that grew and grew and grew to the point where we hadn't played for, a year or two. Mm-hmm. I know it's been, at this point, recording wise, it's been 3 years?
Might be 3 years.
Probably since we played that game.
Yeah, because I was able to essentially, because we did in between your game, we started up my Pathfinder campaign, and then took a break to get back to your Star Wars campaign.
Did we?
Mm-hmm. Because I remembered I had to, I didn't have a good place to GM at the time.
Right. Then we had to, yeah.
And so then we came back and did a another run.
Yeah.
Because we had a time gap there.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. We had that little bit of a time gap, and then we jumped back in. And we reached a point, we had to stop that game, we'll say in media res. We had to stop it kind of in the middle of what was going on. And looking back at it, that's part of the problem is, like, we didn't stop it at the end of an arc. So it's hard to step back in. Because
we ended on a cliffhanger.
We ended in a cliffhanger.
It wasn't in the middle of a moment. It was in a cliffhanger. We had the party split up into 3 sections. Mm-hmm. One was the guy who was going, "Hey, look at me over here. I'm causing a distraction." And like running away from the sewers.
Overwatch, yeah.
There was the guy who's in our ship who's basically flying away.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. And then we had 2 other characters who snuck into a vault, found something mysterious.
They opened the vault and an explosion went off.
Yeah.
And that was where we ended.
So that was a good, like, season finale.
Yeah, it was.
In my opinion.
But, going back to it, once we were a year removed from that cliffhanger, it's really hard to go back to that. And what I've personally run into, even more than that, because I have stories in my head about how we would get back into that for sure, is now we've reached the point where we're too far removed from the game itself, the feel of the game, the characters, to where, some people could probably step back into those characters and take off running. But for other players, that's going to be really hard to get back into that mood, and especially given the game that we were playing, it was the first tabletop RPG that 3 of the 5 players in that game had ever played.
Because the other player, were the 2 players on the ship flying away? Something like that?
Honestly, I don't.
I think so. I think the Mandalorian and the astromech were flying off.
The Mandalorian was in with the spy going into the vault. I'm pretty sure.
No, because
it was the other way around.
It was the spy.
Was your character in there?
And the protocol droid who snuck into the yeah.
Anyway, going back to my point,
right?
We had you and our friend John were 2 players. You guys were experienced tabletop players. You played other stuff. The other 3 were brand new players. And since then, they've gone on to, all 3 of them, play in other games. Learn more about what it means to be a game player, learn other systems, learn other characters, get used to other things. And I think so to turn around and go back to that game, by definition, those 3 players are going to approach that game differently. Because they've learned how to play tabletop games differently.
And you're going to do that from game to game, however. I think from night to night. You will learn something about yourself. There's some variation there, but I think it's going to be more stark for those 3 players. So that's part of the challenge, is coming back to that after, and even for a good player, even for an experienced player, coming back to a game where you've played 3 games since, and you've played 3 totally different characters. If I'm playing, thinking back to just characters I played, if I'm playing my Ratfolk Rogue for 6 months and getting into that personality, that gameplay style, and then I have to turn around and come back and play my human cleric again. That's a big swerve. It is.
And it's kind of hard to change gears like that and get back into that role.
It's like you go back and you see a relative, a cousin you hadn't seen in 10 years, and you go have lunch with them, and at first it's weird, but by the time you're at the dessert, I'm so glad to see you again. And that happens with old characters. You may have forgotten stuff about them, but maybe you reinvent it a little bit through the new know-how that you have, but then you just start getting back into their skin, and that's okay. There are people who played roles on Broadway who go back and do it 10 years removed, and Yeah, during rehearsals it was a little awkward, but by the time they're on stage,
slip back into it.
They may have evolved a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that the key things that you would need in that circumstance, because of the length of hiatus, would be your personal inspiration. And as you said, you have ideas of where it could go. So if you have that on lock, I think you're halfway there. If you know that people want to do it and you just don't know where it's going to go, that could be tough. But if you have a fun idea that you're excited about, other people will be excited too. If the other people, if everybody involved desires, not just kind of will do it, but if they want to come back, they're willing to put in the effort. And you will have to have some sort of time to reestablish who and what you are.
Yeah.
In game, even. So the first game won't be, we're back to 100%. Everybody
it's almost
knows
like starting a
their
new
paces.
campaign where you've got to get everybody reintroduced to each other.
Well, and that's why we did a time jump. And I think in this instance, a time jump would also be necessary.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Because we would need to explain not who and everybody we talk to. We need to jump out a month in advance, and then the party
specifically with this group, I know of at least 2, probably 3 or 4 players that have since written further story. After what happened, they have ideas about what their characters would go and do, and so like, you know, that's the other challenge is if you have a group of players who are wanting to create this story with you, and the game goes on hiatus, their minds don't stop. They continue writing that story because
that becomes Star Wars Legends.
Yeah.
I mean, it just becomes
It's true.
That happens.
C canon versus G canon.
And we have one. And we do have one person in the group who really wanted to pursue writing stories, but then that character became a completely different version of himself.
Yeah.
So okay, go ahead and write the story you want, and then you can.
Yeah, those 2 characters now completely divergent.
But at the same time, just like Star Wars, you can pick out a couple of facts and bring them in because that was inspired by what their character would do, and therefore the player would be inspired by that as well. I think it's important for a game master in a circumstance like that, if you know there's going to be a hiatus, to continue to create.
I was going to say, what do you do if you know there's going to be a hiatus? It's planned. You know when you're coming back. What do you do?
First of all, take a break. You got to let your brain go. And I'm talking a little bit in my weblog series on the FoundryCast.com about game master burnout and battling burnout and what you do. And one of them is you got to get a fresh perspective and take a break. Just put down the pens. Yeah. But after a few weeks, you're driving down the road and something catches your eye. Jot it down. Put it on a piece of paper, an index card, throw it in your notebook. And then after a few more weeks, start to plan out some ideas. Where is this going to go when we pick back up? Take that time, because the last thing you'll want to do is have people go, okay, we're ready to play, let's pick this back up. And now you're not ready.
You're not ready to go.
You've got to capitalize. You need to have stuff in the books, ready to go. So if someone were to show up at your house with dice in hand, it could be on. And the second thing is to get commitments from everybody. That is the toughest thing to do in this day and age now. With people who are teenagers with stuff going on, they're young adults, they're old adults, and we've got jobs and we've got families and we continuing education or whatever. That is tough. But to get everyone to commit to a time and a date, even it's going to be, all right, we're going to do a 5-week commitment, 5 games, boom, 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 everybody's in. If you've got a job thing, you need to take a sick day. If you've got a family event, you can't make it. Let's just all agree together on what will work.
I think that's a really good way to keep momentum going and keep yourself interested. And also, if you're dealing with that burnout issue and you're dealing with, trying to keep up, it's a great way to come back. I've thought about that before with our Star Wars game, of coming back for 2 nights only, 3 nights only. I've got an arc we're going to tell. It's almost like a holiday special. We're coming back for these special episodes and we're done again. And that takes the pressure off you as a GM to be like, all right, we're back. I've got to start getting week after week after week content going.
But if you set that arc up, and let's say it's a 4-night arc, 4-week arc, by the time you get into your 3rd night, you know where it's going to go next. You know, okay, but with what they've done, with what they've messed up, here's the person you irked off. And now they are going to be someone you've got to contend with. And so if it did continue beyond that, everyone says they're having a great time, would you consider going?
Yeah, you can inspire yourself through that sort of...
But setting that commitment with everybody does help chunk it up as well.
Yeah.
Another thing is to give players some homework. And this is that preparation to get back into character. So if there is a time dilation, or if what are the last 3 things you remember doing before we got back together? Yeah. Or just say your character finds himself lost on a desert island with 2 things in their backpack. What would they be, and what would they spend their first 2 or 3 weeks doing on that desert island? Just a character building opportunity, which could be something that you use in game, or maybe not.
Well, we've used that to an extent in our hiatus. I know, and again, the Star Wars game, we've done that where it's, I know we're off for a while, but to keep momentum going, keep everybody's mind fresh, we know there's going to be a time dilation, jump. What's your character doing right now?
Yeah.
Write it out.
I remember I wrote a memo that was like a hidden message that only one of the characters received.
Yeah.
That he then had to give or tell to the other players. And it was done sort of in character. Yeah. And then everything that we did through our Facebook messages was kind of done in character. Yeah. That was a great way to sort of hype us up for what's about to happen.
Right. And to keep everybody interested, keep things going, keep their minds in the game, keep the characters developing a little bit, so that, when you're ready to come back, you hit the ground running.
And if you have a chance to do a quick review going into it, either before or when you sit down, last time if there's a neat way you can involve media or video or audio to bring them back into the moment, how they felt when it was over or when it ended last time. And one of the biggest things that I would suggest to anyone who is coming back from a hiatus, the first thing you need to do is jump into action. This does not need to be you're sitting at a Senate meeting and it's very slow and drawn out. There needs to be tension. Something needs to happen. Yeah. Some of the best television shows, before they show their title sequence, something happens.
Yeah, a quick cold open,
The best show to do that was Farscape. Because almost every episode, they found a reason to build tension, to have someone shooting a gun, someone about to fall, something happens. Yeah. And then when they go to the title card, it's so much more energetic. Yeah. And you're ready.
That's a really good point, we talked about... if there's a long break, you want to make sure that everybody comes back and kind of gets comfortable with their characters again. A punch of action is a really nice way of doing that. Like all of a sudden, you got to make split decisions. What do you do? And you're, my character. Oh yeah, okay, we do this, and then you can kind of get everybody on the same page in the same grooves again as a group. And
we just need to build that excitement, intrigue right away for the first 20-30 minutes. Yeah. And then now you have the time to decompress.
And let some RP happen.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like if the players have been apart from each other, have one of them there, and then a fight breaks out in the bar, and then your buddy comes swinging in.
Yeah, you get threatened, and you're about to get destroyed by a bad guy, and then all of a sudden your other party shows up. There's a battle, then the battle's done. Oh, how you been? Good to see you.
You almost shot me. Like, thanks. You're welcome. I saved your life. And now your characters are interacting about a thing that happened, not...
That just happened.
Yeah.
And then you can turn around into what used to...
And so I can understand why coming back from hiatus seems very daunting, but I think it's incredibly important if you as a game master have more of a story to tell, and you've got players who want to do it, it's worth the effort. And there are a couple things you can do in the meantime to make it easier to bridge the gap. Yeah. Anything you do to continue the role-play game, do stories more, I'm always for. And I need more role-playing in my life, to tell the truth.
Yeah, we both do. As we draw towards the end of episode 19, I thought we'd finish up by talking a little bit about what's coming up, what we've been working on, just kind of a general catch-up about the FoundryCast.com.
Yeah, some behind-the-scenes kind of stuff. I agree. The International Tabletop Day sort of took our attention for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, kind of a couple of scouting trips and kind of getting things set up, and then since it happened, it's been almost a week, and it's been, I mean, on my part, it's been all my attention's been towards editing and getting some content up it's gone up and it's been good. But,
well, it just seemed to be a very natural opportunity for us.
Absolutely.
And
it felt really good.
Also getting able to, the little bit of audience we have, to sort of advertise almost. I hate that word, but to get the word out there about Well Played. I mean, I'm taking 2 people with me there tomorrow who wouldn't have gone otherwise.
Yeah, we've introduced several folks to the place that maybe wouldn't have gone there to begin with. So
that's been sort of all-encompassing of our focus, which was good because it was board game month.
Yeah.
Anywho's, it's for the FoundryCast.
It's something we would have tried to been doing anyway. So yeah, we've been introduced some games we really like. We've gotten some good content from that visit. We've got a video that's just gone up a couple of days ago. A couple more videos that I'm in the middle of editing now that are going to be going up, some basically board game reviews where we're going to have some gameplay, video of it, walk viewers through how it's played, and
just the basics of it as well, instead of like a full 45-minute breakdown of the intricacies.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe 5 minutes.
But more to see what the game's about. Like, if you don't live near Well Played on Wall Street in Asheville,
or any other board game bar, they're popular across the country. But
I think it'd be fun to do more of those board game review videos. Yeah, I like to do a few myself.
We're definitely going to be doing a few of those because we've got a couple games that we want to. We mentioned in previous episodes we want to review, so that's going forward.
I really enjoy streaming, although as we've kind of gone back and forth about, it's so much fun, but at the same time, I don't know if it necessarily builds into the FoundryCast catalog for like reusable stuff. Because I like going back to some of my old videos.
And we get some hits, but it's also almost detrimental, like you said. It draws attention away from doing some other things.
And I feel like it's a different audience.
It's
a totally different audience.
I think so, yeah.
Now, and if we were, say YouTube was a bigger thing for us, then there's a better gap there. Sure. But we're doing podcasts and blogs and the website, so I would like to continue to stream here and there.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks since I've done it, and it's just been time. I mean, we're at the end of the school semester, finals are bearing down on me. It's been a combination of things that have kept me away. So I'm looking forward to, even next week, getting back and streaming a little bit more.
I think that's a good outlet for us.
It is. It's an easy way to make some content happen, and it's a relaxing kind of different. There's less planning involved. It's kind of nice.
I'd like to find a way to bridge that gap and to produce some things that I've streamed that will go to the FoundryCast website and will fit kind of along there. So more of my crafting and painting videos as opposed to gameplay videos.
Both of us, I think, are antsy to get back into more crafting stuff because we haven't done much of that lately. I think the other thing really that I can take away from this month and our experiences Well Played and doing some other stuff, it's been a really nice learning experience for in-the-field content creation. Learn some tech things that we need to work on. Sound, I think, especially is what we need to build up and get some more equipment for. But also, even just like when I was editing some of these videos, like, man, I wish I had a shot of X. That I didn't get. I didn't think about it before. And now that I've sat down and edited some of these videos, now going into it next time when we do another video at maybe another location or when we're at our conventions later in the year, I'm going to know.
You just need stock footage.
I need some more footage of this. I want some footage of this. Some shots of that will be great. I just want to get tons of footage. The more footage I've got, the better video I can edit after the fact.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you and I end up having these really big ideas that we haven't paced out exactly how they're going to be executed.
Yeah, we kind of go into it knowing we kind of want to do this. Let's just go get the footage and go.
And we start, and what I think we're realizing is my vision and your vision might be a little different. And so when we get into that moment, I thought you meant I hold the camera and film the person in interview. Yeah. Your version was that I stand there and interview them on camera. Right. So as we start to plot these things out, we can get more specific. And I think that's going to streamline the process and just give us better looking videos overall.
Yeah, I think that's one thing we've talked about doing. We just mentioned a second ago about doing some board game reviews, and we talked about doing a video on 5-Minute Dungeons that you picked up recently. And I'm glad that we did it the way we did, because we talked about doing that earlier before we went to Well Played. I'm glad we did Well Played first, because now I know that we can go into that video and script it out better and lay out exactly what we're going to do better. And so that it's going to be a really nicely put together video. Whereas before, we were talking about, well, let's do it. Let's get some people involved and get together and play this game. Well, without a plan of what that video is going to be, it's going to be, we're not really sure what the final product's going to be. So now we know what our final product we want that to be, so we can go into it with that perspective.
I think we've also been learning a lot more about ways to connect with the community and the importance of social media, which is probably our biggest issue. Yeah, is consistency and
that's the consistency.
I hate to use the word marketing, but that's kind of the thing. We want the video to go out there and for people who enjoy the kind of things we do to see it. But if we forget because we're busy and it's 2 a.m. and we go, oh, okay, and then
I'll do it tomorrow,
and then so much other stuff happens. So
sure.
I think we're learning better, smarter ways to get on the ball for that, and we're still seeing that that's a challenge. And if we didn't recognize that, we couldn't focus on it. So going forward in May and June, July, as we're getting into convention season, if you will,
we're getting there.
That's going to be something that we will need to double down on. And it's been a interesting learning curve to see how many people might watch a video or see your tweet or reply, or if you get new followers or something because of it. It's so gratifying. But I have been thinking, and I'd like to lay a challenge down for you.
All right.
This one has a time limit.
Okay.
I don't know what to set it to. Maybe by January 1st of 2018.
Oh, okay.
So we've got time.
Long shot, but yeah.
Long shot. I would like you and I separately to create something that we can put online that someone could purchase from us. That we write something. I've already been working on some game aids for people playing Pathfinder, Dungeons & Dragons type games to be able to quickly pull information that they may not be inspired on the fly to come up with. I need to get back into the material. I also need to figure out the layout and to get it published, if you will, virtually through something like Drive-Thru-RPG, and have it be for pennies. I'm not worried about making money, but I would like the opportunity for you and I separately to come up with things that we put out there that our audience could take home.
Yeah, we've talked about a number of different projects down this road before, and I think I can think of at least 2 off the top of my head that I think are reasonable to talk about by January 1. I think the stress here for me would be not stress on myself. The point to stress would be that we're not talking about. It's not we want to sell this to make money. Ka-ching. I really like the idea, the perspective that what you're saying though is let's commit to coming up with a tangible product.
Yes.
Content creation, a podcast is great.
Right.
And heck, you can charge people for a podcast. That's not what we're about. But we're talking about a physical, not necessarily a physical object you can hold, but like you said, information that you could use in a game, something that you can
or
get
even if
from
you
us.
wrote a short story that someone could purchase. Yeah. I mean, I say the word purchase, but I mean like pay what you want. You want it for free or whatever.
A product to be given.
A product
beyond general entertainment content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even the world building ideas. So
that's
you go and you
that's
build
one of my
the world,
thoughts,
and someone could have that as
that direction is creating a campaign setting that you can use this campaign.
That would be a type of thing as well.
Right.
So I'd like to extend that challenge to you.
Challenge accepted.
Whew.
I don't know if we'll succeed, but challenge accepted.
I don't see why we couldn't succeed.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
It ends up being, okay, you put shite out there, we have shite out there.
Yeah,
or we put out something that's polished. And there's also the challenges of making sure we don't have any copyright issues.
Yeah, we don't step on toes or anything like that.
And then we also, maybe our piece needs art. Do we seek out an artist? Do we do it ourselves and try to make it look nice? Yeah. Do we pay someone to use their clip art? I mean, what does it end up being?
Sure.
And that's what I was thinking today as I thought of this challenge, because I'm getting a head start on it. And I thought, why can't I do this and put it out there? Mm-hmm. And if someone wants to pay money for it, that's awesome. If people want it for free and they will use it and give me their feedback, that's going to be cool too. And that's something that we did here, doubling back to Well Played one more time.
I was going to say,
Corey, great guy again. He told us that they're looking to do some connections.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give, how much of this is privileged information, but they are trying to reach out connections for people
to hook up creators with each other. To create a space where you can get together
and part of that idea inspired me. Okay, I can write all day.
Sure.
I'm pretty decent in art, but the type of art I'm looking for is beyond my ability.
Right, yeah.
But someone else, that might be their thing.
Yeah.
And so, if this ends up being something that does make $15, I will give them $7 of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We've talked about, we'd love to get to the point where we can pull in a Patreon or something like that. To the same end. I think that's some overlap there about, creating something that's able to sustain itself from a material standpoint would be nice.
Yeah, that's the long-term goal, and I don't think that's too lofty of a goal. But I just wanted to put something out there that a consumer of what we produce could continue to consume and use, as opposed to
I'm on board with it. So all you guys out there listening, look forward in January of 2018 to the FoundryCast brand sneakers. Get some of those, and also some cereal. We're gonna have a cereal coming out.
We learned from the New Day.
Let's go the New Day route. We're gonna have cereal. We're gonna have some T-shirts. We're gonna have some headwear.
Well, let's talk about T-shirts. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
This is behind the scenes stuff, my friends.
Yeah. So that's something. Yeah, we need to touch on. We've talked about doing some just for promotional sake for ourselves. Some wearables that we can have.
I love going... We went to Well Played, and they all have cool T-shirts, like the same color green.
Well, they're staff.
And and then the Game Masters, it says Game Master on the back of their shirt.
Yeah.
That's a legit shirt to wear at any convention. It just says
very true.
People are like, Game Master, what's up? High five.
That's very true.
And there's the restaurant that I talked about having limited floor space called Hot Dog World.
Yeah.
Those T-shirts, if you wear that in Hendersonville or Asheville... People will talk to you.
Yeah.
Because they know where to get a good hot dog. Yeah. If we had... I like the idea of just wearing a shirt that is us. Our brand.
FoundryCast shirt.
It's kind of like if you're a WWE wrestler, you don't wear your T-shirt outside of the arena. You just don't. You don't drink your own Kool-Aid. But I love the idea that we go to a convention or we just go to a shop downtown if we're doing something for the website.
Yeah, anytime we're doing something official. It's almost like a uniform we're going to put on.
Kind of.
We're in business mode, quote unquote. We're there as, like you said, when we're at the convention, when we're at Raleigh SuperCon this summer, a lot of the time we're going to be, part of the time we're going to be there just for fun.
Just for fun.
As congoers, but part of the time we're going to be there creating content. We're going to be there shooting video, audio, whatever. Mm-hmm. Having that there makes sense. We're quote unquote working. I don't consider this work, but it kind of is. We're there working. We're there doing what we do.
And that way, anything that goes on camera will look a little better.
Also true. Yeah, it's
that we're representing ourselves.
Yeah.
So I looked at a couple T-shirt sites, and there's some things we can do. I kind of wanted to get a hoodie. A black hoodie.
I thought about a hoodie, but the thing with the hoodie is I'm never going to wear a hoodie at a convention because conventions tend to be very warm.
But sometimes they're cold, and I like having the option of putting on a black hoodie with our maroon emblem.
Our logo is awesome.
Our logo.
Big shout out to our good buddy Matt.
Thank you, Matt, sir.
That helped us make that happen.
Because we had a sort of variations on the logo, and that podcast RSS feed kind of logo has been my favorite.
Yeah, it's really gone together well. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think of maybe T-shirt wise, maybe the icon on the front.
Yeah.
On the breast.
Just the square.
Just the square. Mm-hmm. Then the back full logo, FoundryCast, FoundryCast.com. Mm-hmm. I don't know, something like that. I'm not 100% sure. We need to play around with different designs, but I've also, to that end, I've also been playing around with business card designs again, and I think I've kind of got a generally good idea in my mind about how I'm going to lay out a new set of business cards that we want to do with the logo on the front and on the back, probably our own Twitters, each of us, so that they can connect a little bit more. And then also, I really like the idea of a QR code on the back, and you can just whoop.
I don't know a single soul who uses QR codes.
I don't either, but it seems cool.
It does. I like the idea that having the back of the card be incredibly useful.
Yeah.
So even if they don't care about what's on the front, they're just picking up cards for collecting. They look on the back, and there's some that, like, for business owners or for teachers, they get a calendar.
Yeah.
Just a little calendar for the whole year. Like, squeezed in tiny font on the back.
Yeah.
Something kind of like that, but something in the vein of what we are, what we do. Just having that space on the back to write down things. Like, if someone wants information from us, I like the idea of they're going to tell us something interesting. So I don't have any paper to write it down. Let me get one of my cards. I write it down. I put it in my pocket. Here, by the way, here's one of my cards.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we traded information.
Sure.
That might be a little disingenuous. I don't know.
Car salesman-y?
Yeah, kind of. But at the same time, you got to market yourself.
Sure, absolutely, and that's something we're still learning and working on. We do this primarily for ourselves, but we also do it with the intention that other folks listen and enjoy our content too. So you got to get your name out there and get people listening before anybody's going to actually listen. You've got to make people listen to get them to listen. That's the wise words for the night, I guess. And
continuing on that vein, just generally getting our name out there. I've been trying to pursue getting our podcast listed in different directories.
Sure.
So I've submitted us for a couple because that's one of the ways that I found other podcasts is I just looked up something in special interests and
you just search for a subject you like, and all of a sudden, I've found a couple podcasts that I really enjoy now through that same method where I look for gaming. I'll listen to these guys.
But if I'm not going to pop up on a Google, then I need to pop up in some other podcast directory, and so I've been trying to apply our podcast, and we've gotten into I think one or two of those so far. Cool. So I just thought it'd be neat if we just happened to catch some people that way, and they may not have found us any other way.
Yeah. So if you're a new listener, we didn't say anything at the beginning, but welcome. Thanks for listening to Zach and Cyrus on the FoundryCast.
I think if you go back to episode 18, we did sort of a refresh of who and what we are.
Yeah, you can check out the beginning of that episode.
So finish listening to this, then go listen to every other episode.
Well, yeah, sure. Those first couple were garbage. No, I'm just kidding. I think all of our episodes have been pretty
don't think we've put out anything that's garbage.
No, I'm just kidding, of course.
Not with your editing skills. You've edited out some really good garbage.
That's true. Anyway. I guess we can draw to the very end, the very last piece of our agenda for episode 19, and that is, it's May now. We need a new month.
It's gonna be May.
It's gonna be May. We need a new monthly theme, because we've been trying this year to do a theme for each month, and of course April was Tabletop Month, Board Game Month, and it worked out very well for us. We all are definitely going to continue a lot of tabletop and board game content going forward. Like I said, I've got a couple videos editing right now that'll be out over the next week or so. They're going to be on that subject as well, and we'll continue doing that throughout the year. But we want to try and hit on another theme for May, just to kind of put something in our wheelhouse and focus a little bit of our attention and our projects on.
Yeah, and we have to be realistic with what we know we can do, and we've got some really great ideas. One of them that I'm just dying to do, but I know we've got to wait probably at least another month. I think I said this a couple podcasts ago, to really make that happen with some of our friends' free time and some electronic setup that we've got to do.
We're depending on either equipment or other people, it can throw some wrinkles in there.
So we're still sort of striving for some really fun things, but we talked tonight, and I think we landed on something that's going to be just as fun.
Yeah, this is one that I've been looking forward to for a while because it's directly in my wheelhouse, right in the middle of the strike zone for me, right where I like to work.
Well, don't leave me hanging, Zach. What's it gonna be?
So May's theme is gonna be retro gaming.
Retro gaming.
Which we talked about earlier. Usually when you hear retro gaming, you think retro video gaming, NES, Atari, old stuff, which is what I do. I've done some videos on that in the past. I'm obviously going to be doing some going forward. But it also expands out to retro tabletop gaming.
It does. So we could dive deep. We could do that too. We could dive all the way down into advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm afraid even fun. First edition. I'd have to relearn some rules there, buddy. But stuff like that, anything that is old school gaming.
But I know you've got some great content stuff in your collection from like second edition, some really cool just things that we could go back and look at and play around with.
I wanted to review some articles and some books from second edition, third edition even.
Well, you got copies of Dragon, too.
I have copies of Dragon
It'd be a lot of fun
magazine.
to go back and look at.
Some of those are just wonderful to read.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much advertising they had to do in their own magazines for things that haven't existed in 20, 30 years. Those issues of Dragon magazine are like heirloom items for me now. I'm trying to keep them safe. They're with all my other nerdery, but if you want to mess with my Dungeon and Dragon, like issue 300, go ahead. I can go find that on eBay for $2. These, they're a little more rare. But anything retro gaming, I think, is going to totally fit the bill. And I think we could interpret that into just Retro Month in general if we want to add that into our blogs.
Yeah, well, I've got gobs and gobs of things to say about old video games and stuff.
We're both huge nostalgia nerds.
That's also true. I mean,
if you don't know that about us yet.
That's a big a vein of nerddom, I think. Nerd culture is nostalgia for sure. So we'll touch on a few of those things, but specifically going to be coming out and definitely doing some retro video game stuff.
We're looking, right
just
across
picked
from
up
us.
A couple of new games a couple of days ago. There's a kiosk in our mall that just opened that's a local... So there are a few towns over, but a local retro game shop that opened up a kiosk here. So I picked up a couple new titles, old titles, that I want to play. We'll do some fun videos with that, and a couple other things as well. But overall, that's where we're headed. So May is officially Retro Gaming Month, so look forward to that, and good content to that direction, and other content too, like I said, more board game stuff, more crafting stuff. I'm going to be doing some cosplay stuff coming up. We're going to be getting ready for Raleigh SuperCon in July. So all kinds of stuff coming up from us. You can check all that out at thefoundrycast.com. You can check me out on Twitter, 9to5Gamer.
And I am Crafty B Gamer because, I'm the Crafty Bastard Gamer on YouTube, but for Twitter and Instagram...
Gotta shorten that a little bit.
Well, yeah, I gotta keep it low for the kids, you know.
Sure.
I have a niece and nephew out there somewhere in internet land, and they don't need to know me as the bastard.
But yeah, you can follow us both there and see some of our content. You can follow the FoundryCast on Twitter as well and get some of our content posted there too. So I guess that's it for us tonight.
So until next time, I am Sega Does What Nintendo Don't.
And I am Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Say that 5 times fast.
No.
We'll see you next time on the FoundryCast.
Good night, everybody. Here's the thing about it. Are you familiar with the O.J. Simpson case?
A bit, yes.
Turns out he didn't do it.